Have you ever had a job where the pressure felt like an actual literal war zone?
Oh, yeah, like food service or retail during the holidays.
Right, exactly. Think about that kind of shift where, the tickets are just piling up, the phones are ringing off the hook, and you are basically relying on pure adrenaline to just survive until you can finally clock out.
It's intense.
It is. And most of
Right.
us, we use that war zone comparison as just a casual metaphor. We tell our friends, like, oh, we survived the trenches of a Friday night dinner rush.
Right.
But for the subject of today's deep dive, that wasn't a metaphor at all. It was an active survival strategy.
It really was.
Yeah. So today we are looking at this incredible analysis from the book, The Tularosa Perimeter, a psychological and forensic reconstruction. And specifically, we're diving into the chapters that cover his return to civilian life.
Which is just a fascinating period to look at.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore this really wild phenomenon. We're looking at how a combat veteran takes his intense, like deeply ingrained military conditioning and completely repurposes it to dominate the civilian world
Yeah.
and the specific battlefield he chooses to conquer, the suburban commercial pizza industry.
I mean, it is a remarkable translation of skills, honestly, but
Yeah.
to really understand how and why he does this, we have to establish exactly where this man, Alexander Thorne, is mentally and physically when he enters this world.
Right. Give us the backdrop.
So we are looking at Thorne's life post-military discharge. This is in the late 1990s. He has just been discharged from the Army under honorable conditions status.
Okay.
And he's retreated to his father's basement in suburban Maryland, and he is just struggling deeply.
Yeah.
He's battling severe PTSD from his deployments, particularly from his time in Bosnia where he was clearing minefields. And alongside that trauma, he has this unrelenting
The
tinnitus.
cicadas.
Yes, exactly. It's this constant high-pitched ringing in his ears that he actually describes as the sound of cicadas. It just never stops.
I want to pause on that discharge status for a second because the sources mentioned he was discharged, general, under honorable conditions.
Right.
For those of us who are, unfamiliar with military paperwork, what does that actually mean? Is that like a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's a complicated gray area, and for Thorne, it was devastating. It usually means the soldier's overall service was satisfactory, but there was a significant infraction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Thorne's case, it followed a DUI incident while he was stationed in Germany, and that single incident effectively stripped him of his rank and forced him out of the structure that gave his entire life meaning.
Wow.
His last real memory of the military was a battalion commander physically ripping the Velcro rank patch off his chest.
That is brutal.
So he returns to civilian life feeling like a complete failure, totally stripped of his identity.
And on top of that, profound loss of identity. The sources note he develops this severe agoraphobic response, right?
Yes,
It manifests as this strict psychological boundary. He calls it his 15-mile limit.
that's right.
If he travels outside a 15-mile radius of his home base, his body just completely shuts down. He experiences these massive panic attacks, the sensation of suffocating, basically a complete physical and mental breakdown.
He is a man trapped by his own neurological scarring, and ironically, the safety of his father's basement is actually dangerous for him.
Because of the quiet.
Exactly, because the silence down there is deafening. The quiet allows those cicadas in his head, that tinnitus, to just take over completely.
Oh, man.
So to cope, to find a way to exist in a civilian world that feels entirely alien and lacking in structure, his father, who is a retired Navy veteran and really understands the desperate need for routine, his father gets him a job as a delivery driver at a local Pizza Hut. And Thorne doesn't just treat this as a minimum wage gig to pay for gas. He maps out the suburban grid of Maryland just as he mapped out the suspect terrain of the Sava River in the Balkans.
Okay, let's unpack this because I read that in the notes, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
Is he actually using military tactics, or is he just like a highly stressed guy trying to hustle to make good tips? Because calling a pizza delivery a military operation sounds a bit dramatic for suburban Maryland,
It sounds dramatic until you look at the mechanics of how he actually operated. I mean, he didn't see himself as a pizza guy.
Right.
He viewed his 1992 Ford Ranger as an extraction vehicle. The thermal delivery bags, those were his payload, and you know that classic 30-minute delivery guarantee.
Yeah, the old slogan.
To him, that wasn't a corporate slogan, that was a strict mission clock. He took an environment that is chaotic by nature, a suburban Friday night with erratic traffic, unpredictable customers, a kitchen constantly on the verge of being overwhelmed, and he applied rigid military doctrine to it.
Like what specific?
Well, for example, he minimized left turns across his entire shift to avoid idling at traffic lights.
Wow.
He learned the gate codes to apartment complexes and used the back entrances to eliminate what he called logistical friction.
That is intense.
He wasn't just driving, he was conducting route reconnaissance.
Okay, when you break it down like that, the mechanics make total sense. Reading through these sources, I kept thinking of Thorne's routing strategy, like someone playing a high-stakes tower defense video game.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. In those games, every single second and every micro movement is calculated to prevent a total system failure. If you take a suboptimal path or you wait too long, the enemies just overwhelm your base.
Exactly.
For Thorne, the enemies are time, inefficiency, and the creeping silence of his own mind. Like, if he stops moving, the system crashes.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. He needed that constant, calculated movement, and, his strategy yielded incredibly tangible results.
The tips, right?
Yeah. In 1998, the minimum wage was $5.15 an hour. But Thorne was pulling in $120 in tips alone on a 5-hour Friday night shift.
Which is crazy for the 90s.
It was massive. He was clearing over $20 an hour. But the fascinating part is what he did with the money.
Yeah, the counting.
When he got back to the store and cashed out, he didn't just, stuff the bills in his pocket. He meticulously stacked them, facing all the bills the exact same way, organizing them by denomination.
Like a ritual.
It was a compulsion born directly from the Army's demand to bring strict order to absolute chaos.
Because it's a metric of success, right? I mean, this is the guy whose rank was physically ripped off his chest. So when he counts out that $120, it's undeniable mathematical validation.
Yes, absolutely.
And we see that validation really crystallize when his store manager, Jerry, calls him into the office. Jerry tells Thorne he's a machine. He's the fastest driver, 0 customer complaints, total execution.
Right.
And Jerry gives him a raise, 25 cents an hour.
Which, in today's economy, it sounds almost insulting.
Totally.
But for Thorne, it wasn't about the literal 25 cents. It was the stamp of approval. It was a commanding officer recognizing his operational excellence.
Right.
Actually tells Jerry, I appreciate the intel.
Wow.
He is fully functioning within this new military-commercial hybrid structure.
But then he tries to do dishes off the clock, right?
Right.
Like, after the rush ends and he gets that praise from Jerry, the kitchen starts to quiet down.
Yeah.
He grabs a mop bucket. He offers to do the massive pile of dishes for free. Why does a guy who is so hyper-efficient on the road suddenly want to do free manual labor?
Because of the silence. Remember the basement?
Right.
When the kitchen quiets down, the cicada sound in his head starts screaming. The silence is his primary trigger. He desperately needed what he called kinetic energy to drown out his own mind.
So he's using the work to hide.
Exactly. He was using heavy physical labor as a masking agent for his trauma. If he's scrubbing pans with scalding water, he isn't thinking about the minefields in Bosnia.
But Jerry forces him to drop the bucket and clock out.
Right.
I mean, why can't Jerry just let the guy work if he wants to work? It seems like a win-win for a restaurant manager to have an employee willing to clean for free.
Because Jerry operates on a completely different set of metrics. Corporate America doesn't care about kinetic energy or trauma masking. Jerry is looking at the profit and loss statement, specifically the labor percentage.
Right, the overtime.
Exactly.
Duh.
Thorne was sitting at 39.2 hours for the week. Jerry forced him out the door strictly to avoid paying time and a half overtime. It is a jarring collision between Thorne's visceral need for psychological survival and corporate America's rigid need for budget compliance.
So Thorne is forced out the back door, into the quiet parking lot, with his $120 and his 25-cent raise, feeling completely disarmed.
Yeah.
He's built this perfect psychological armor through extreme efficiency on the road. But, I mean, you can outdrive a Friday rush all you want. You can't outrun your own body. All of this intense labor, the stress, the driving, something has to give eventually, right?
Exactly. And the physical toll of his actual military service catches up to him in a way that completely exposes the flaws in civilian leadership.
This is the Thursday shift.
Right. Fast forward to December 2000. Thorne is working a Thursday night shift. It's an elementary school fundraiser, so the ticket printer is just spitting out orders continuously.
The worst.
It's chaos. And he's standing at the cut table when his back simply gives out.
The sources refer to this as a 20% radiculopathy. What is that in plain English? Is that just Like a bad muscle spasm from standing too long?
Oh, it's far worse than a muscle spasm. Radiculopathy is a condition where a nerve in the spine is compressed.
Ouch.
For Thorne, it manifested as a live wire of excruciating nerve pain shooting all the way down his right leg.
Oh, man.
It was quite literally a physical ghost from the heavy lifting and the punishing rough terrain he endured in Bosnia. It's a neurological echo of the war. And he realizes immediately that he is, in his own words, combat ineffective. He can't even press the clutch of his Ford Ranger. So he limps into the office to tell his assistant manager, Kevin, that he needs to bug out.
And Kevin looks at the dispatch screen, sees they're 20 orders down, and tells Thorne to just pop an Advil and keep taking deliveries.
Yeah.
How does that kind of corporate brush-off land with someone who had spent years in a military unit?
It is the ultimate betrayal. It violates Thorne's deepest, most fundamental code. In the combat engineers, you do not leave a man behind, and you never, ever force a casualty to march.
Right.
To Thorne, Kevin's dismissal isn't just annoying. It is a total, unforgivable failure of leadership. So Thorne does something completely against his nature.
He quits?
He abandons his post, he drops his bank bag, throws his car topper on the desk, and quits on the spot.
It feels like a massive defeat in the moment. You know, he's driving home, his leg is throbbing in time with the turn signal, and he's terrified because he just severed his only income stream.
Right.
But 20 minutes later, he sees an illuminated sign for Papa John's, and he just walks in.
He executes a literal tactical pivot. He applies right then and there. The general manager, Sarah, sees his military posture, his directness, and hires him to start the very next morning at 10 a.m. for the Friday school lunch rush.
That's a huge shift.
And this pivot changes everything for him. He transitions from night operations dealing with dark porches, unlit house numbers, drunk customers, to daylight ops, dealing with teachers, administrators, and petty cash tips. It is a vastly superior tactical environment.
The sources show he makes $200 in 4 hours. The pain in his leg forced him to quit a toxic environment, leading to this incredibly lucrative new mission.
What's fascinating here is how he reframes what could have been a career-ending failure, quitting during a rush into a tactical retreat that yields a massive strategic victory.
Yeah.
But because the daytime shifts are different, he has downtime. And remember, downtime brings the silence.
And the silence brings the cicadas.
Exactly. So he refuses to stand around. He transitions from a driver to a kitchen engineer.
It's strange, though. The notes say he forces the lead cook to teach him how to stretch the dough. Like, why does a delivery driver care so much about how the dough is stretched? That's not his job.
Because to Thorne, it wasn't cooking, it was structural engineering. Getting the crust right, what he called the edge lock, was about structural integrity.
Okay.
If the edge lock fails, the sauce bleeds. If the sauce bleeds, the cheese slides. If the cheese slides, the customer complains, and the mission fails.
Wow, he really breaks it all down.
He masters the entire ecosystem of the store by breaking it down into component parts. By 2005, he wants a command position, he wants to run the operations.
Sarah can't promote him because of corporate labor caps, but she gets him a shift manager position at a store in Severna Park.
Right.
And this is a crucial detail. Severna Park is 10 miles away. It fits perfectly within his 15-mile psychological perimeter. He is safe, he is promoted, and he has secured his logistical and financial life.
He has established a highly controlled ecosystem where he is the undisputed master of the variables.
So he's built this perfect 15-mile fortress. He's safe. But, you know, he can't stay locked up in that routine forever, right?
Yeah.
At some point, the outside world is going to slip through the cracks.
It does, and ironically, he invites it in. Thorne's isolation is his primary defense mechanism, but the silence in his basement gets too loud. He needs a distraction.
Right.
So he breaks his own protocol. A charismatic coworker named Rick invites him over for dinner with his wife, Maria.
The setup for this dinner is so specific in the text. Maria cooks pork chops, corn, rice, and gravy. Why does the author highlight the menu?
Because it's not just a meal. It happens to be Thorne's mother's signature dish.
Oh, wow.
The smell, the taste, it's the exact sensory experience of safety from his childhood, before the army, before the burn pits, before all the trauma. For an hour, sitting at that table, the war in his head actually pauses. He lets his guard down.
But the environment quickly turns volatile. Rick excuses himself to the bathroom multiple times, and when he comes back, his entire demeanor has shifted. The charisma is just gone. His pupils are pinned, his jaw is tight, he's been doing meth. And suddenly, over burnt rice, Rick turns highly aggressive. He knocks his chair over and physically attacks Maria, grabbing her arm.
It escalates instantly.
It does, and the text mentions that Thorne's 12B combat engineer training takes over here. I know we talked about his time in Bosnia, but what exactly is a 12B and why does that specific training matter in a suburban dining room?
So, a 12B is the military occupational specialty code for a combat engineer. Their job involves structural demolition, breaching obstacles, and clearing minefields.
So super high stakes.
Highly technical, highly dangerous work that requires methodical, emotionless execution. You don't survive as a 12B by panicking or getting angry. You survive by understanding physics, leverage, and structural weak points.
As I see.
So when Rick attacks Maria, Thorne doesn't see red. He doesn't get into a chaotic, emotional bar brawl. He assesses the structural weak point of the threat.
So he doesn't just start throwing wild punches.
Not at all. He neutralizes the threat using pure physics. He crosses the room, breaks Rick's grip on Maria with a leverage move on the wrist, and shoves him back. He pins him and calmly warns him that if he touches her again, he will dismantle him.
Man.
And when Rick lunges again, Thorne simply sidesteps and lets Rick's own momentum carry him straight into a china cabinet. The threat is neutralized efficiently, without excess violence, entirely through combat muscle memory.
That is wild. The police arrive. Rick goes to prison for at least 2 years on possession and probation violation, and Thorne executes what he views as an extraction.
Yes.
He takes Maria, who he sees as a civilian casualty in a war she didn't know she was fighting out of the kill zone, and brings her back to the ultimate secure location, his Navy veteran father's basement.
And this represents a profound psychological shift for Thorne. Up until this moment in the dining room, his perimeter was entirely self-serving.
It was just about him.
Strictly about protecting himself from panic, from noise, from traumatic memories. But in that moment, the perimeter expands. He begins to protect others. Over the next few years, between 2003 and 2005, Thorne and Maria build a life together.
Rick is entirely redacted from the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thorne and Maria marry. They have a son, then a daughter.
And what's really touching is how Thorne expresses his affection. He shows his love not through traditional romance, but through logistics.
Right.
He is making sure the doors are locked, the oil is changed, the cabinet is fixed.
Yeah.
But this beautiful new family creates a massive logistical problem for him, right?
Absolutely. Diapers, formula, tires for the Ford Ranger. The variable, unpredictable income of a delivery driver isn't enough to sustain the family unit anymore. He is operating at a deficit.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because to protect his family, he realizes he needs a fixed income, a salary.
Exactly. To quote Thorne's own internal logic, he decides he has to secure the supply line. And to do that, he is forced to take that high-stress salaried management promotion in Severna Park.
And that is the ultimate tragic irony of this entire segment of his life.
It really is.
The very act of saving Maria, of allowing himself to love and be loved, of building a family, it forces him out of his safe, physically demanding, highly controlled routine. It pushes him straight into the chaotic, high-stress corporate management role that will eventually trigger his complete and total psychological collapse years later.
Yeah.
He stepped right into the trap specifically to save the people he loved.
It is incredibly poignant. It highlights just how fragile the balance is for someone managing profound trauma, and how the instinct to protect others can sometimes override the instinct to protect oneself.
When we pull all these threads together, Alexander Thorne's story shows us that military conditioning, especially when fused with severe trauma, never truly vanishes.
Yeah.
It doesn't just evaporate the day you hand over your uniform and get your discharge papers.
No, not at all.
It gets redirected. A suburban pizza rush becomes a logistics puzzle requiring route reconnaissance. Dough preparation becomes structural engineering. A domestic dispute at a dinner party becomes a hostile target neutralization and a civilian extraction.
It forces us to realize that the skills and the wiring forged in the most extreme environments on Earth just don't disappear. The brain adapts. Those survival mechanisms just find new, sometimes highly surprising applications in the civilian world.
I want you, the listener, to think about your own life for a second. Think about the intense environments you've left behind. Maybe it wasn't the military. Maybe it was a hyper-competitive school environment, a deeply toxic past relationship, or a high-pressure corporate job that demanded all your waking hours.
We all have them.
We do. How do the rules of those old environments continue to dictate the way you navigate the world today? How are you routing your own Friday night deliveries based on maps that were drawn years ago?
That's the crucial takeaway here, and it raises a final question that I want to leave everyone with today. In our modern society, we constantly celebrate efficiency and high performance in the workplace. We love the employee who never stops, who works with machine-like precision, who always clears the screen and asks for more.
We reward it.
We do. But Thorne's story demands that we look much closer at our top performers. When someone is operating at that level of relentless intensity, are they truly thriving? Or are they just utilizing a deeply ingrained trauma response to keep their own internal chaos at bay? What invisible perimeters are the people around you patrolling every single day?
That is a profound question to end on, and definitely something to think about the next time you see someone operating like a machine. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Tularosa Perimeter. Take care of yourselves, and we will catch you next time.